Emergency diplomatic channels activated across the Alliance. The Haiju responded first, promising to send the Earth Defense Fleet, hung in space between the planet and the approaching Confederation Armada. Admiral Daeho Shin stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, watching the tactical display update in real time. 200 Confederation warships versus Earth's 38 vessels, and another 47 from the free worlds. The odds were not good. Confederation fleet holding position at the orbit of Mars, reported Commander Borum Song from the tactical station. They're not advancing yet. They want us to sweat, Captain Min Seok-an said from his post. He commanded the Indomitable's weapon systems. Classic intimidation tactic. Show overwhelming force and wait for surrender. Shin didn't respond. His eyes tracked the enemy formation, analyzing their positioning, searching for weaknesses. The Confederation ships were powerful, but they followed standard military doctrine, predictable patterns. Humanity's fleet was smaller, but every captain had been given freedom to improvise, to think creatively, to use tactics the Confederation wouldn't expect. A communication request came through. The holographic form of Counselor Vrath materialized above the command deck. Admiral Shin, this fleet represents the Confederation's commitment to galactic peace. We are here to offer Earth one final opportunity to join our alliance peacefully. By bringing 200 warships? Shin replied calmly. That's an interesting definition of peaceful. These vessels are here to ensure your protection once you sign the treaty. The galaxy can be dangerous for isolated species. We want to make certain Earth is safe. Captain Jia-O's voice came through on a private channel from her ship, the Sejong. Admiral, I'm detecting energy buildups on their weapon systems. Whatever they're saying, they're preparing to fire. Shin kept his expression neutral. Counselor, Earth's position hasn't changed. We rejected your treaty 3 months ago. That decision stands. Then you are choosing conflict over cooperation. The Confederation cannot allow a hostile species to threaten galactic stability. We're not hostile. We're simply free. There's a difference. Vrath's colors shifted to deeper tones. Freedom without guidance leads to chaos. Chaos leads to war. We have maintained peace for 3,000 years by ensuring all civilizations follow proper protocols. Earth will comply or face the consequences. We've faced your consequences for 3 months, Shin replied. Economic isolation, diplomatic blockade, propaganda campaigns calling us dangerous. We're still here. We're still free. And we're not alone anymore. As if on cue, more ships emerged from jump points throughout the solar system. Not dozens, hundreds. Ships from the free world's network. Species that had been quietly watching Earth's resistance, waiting to see if humanity would really stand against the Confederation. The tactical display lit up with new contacts. Allies from across known space all converging on Earth's position. Vrath's hologram flickered. This is illegal. These species are violating Confederation space by entering this system. This isn't Confederation space, Shin corrected. This is Earth space. And these are our allies, exercising their right to assist a friend. The odds on the tactical display shifted, no longer 10-1. Now closer to even, and more ships kept arriving. The free worlds had been building their alliance quietly for decades. Earth had given them a reason to come out of the shadows. Jiwoo's voice came through on the command channel from the surface. Admiral, I'm broadcasting to all vessels in the system. Confederation and Allied, time they heard why we're fighting. The broadcast went out on all frequencies. Jiwoo's face appeared on every screen in every ship throughout the solar system. 3 months ago, I stood in front of Earth's leaders and rejected the Galactic Peace Treaty. I was called a fool, a traitor, an idealist who would doom humanity to isolation and death. Today, I stand here to explain why I made that choice and why hundreds of species across the galaxy have made the same one. She pulled up images of Confederation member worlds, the identical cities, the conformist architecture, the standardized everything. The Confederation promises peace but delivers uniformity. They promise protection, but demand surrender. They promise partnership but practice subjugation. For 3,000 years, they've been absorbing civilizations, erasing cultures, replacing diversity with standardization. They call it peace. We call it tyranny. Images shifted to show the free worlds. Chaotic, creative, unique civilizations maintaining their own identities. These are the species that said no, the ones who chose freedom over false security, the ones who refused to trade their souls for safety. They were isolated. They were threatened. They were told they would fail without Confederation guidance, but they survived. They thrived. They proved that there are many paths to the stars and the Confederation's way isn't the only one. She looked directly at the camera. To the Confederation fleet I say this, turn back. Leave our system. We will not sign your treaty today or ever. We will not surrender our freedom because you threaten us with force. We will not kneel because you claim to know better than us how we should live. Her voice grew stronger. To the free worlds who came to our aid I say this, thank you. Thank you for showing us we're not alone. Thank you for proving that resistance is possible. Thank you for standing with us when it would have been easier to hide. Together we are writing a new story, not of conquest and conformity, but of cooperation and diversity. The broadcast ended. For a moment silence hung across the void of space. Then Counselor Vrath responded, "You speak of freedom, but you offer only chaos. You speak of diversity, but you ensure conflict. The Confederation has maintained peace for millennia. We will not allow a handful of rebellious species to threaten that peace. All vessels prepare to enforce compliance." The Confederation fleet began advancing toward Earth. Admiral Shin gave the order. All ships, defensive formation Beta. Do not fire unless fired upon, but be ready. Show them we're not afraid. The Allied fleet moved into position. Human ships took point. Their new designs and unpredictable tactics meant to disrupt standard Confederation attack patterns. The free world vessels formed a secondary line, ready to support and reinforce. Commander Borum Song worked furiously at the tactical station. "Admiral, I've been analyzing their formation. They're using a standard enforcement pattern, same one they've used for the last 50 recorded military actions. They think we'll panic and scatter. Then let's surprise them," Shin said. "Implement Song Formation 7. The Allied fleet shifted into a pattern that looked random but was carefully calculated. Ships scattered to positions that made no sense by Confederation military doctrine, but created perfect crossfire opportunities and mutual support positions. The Confederation fleet hesitated. Their formation rippled as commanders tried to adjust to the unexpected positioning. "They're confused," Captain Minsock reported. "Their tactical doctrine doesn't account for non-standard defensive arrays. They're running simulations trying to predict our moves. While they're thinking, we're acting," Shin replied. "All ships prepare defensive countermeasures. Target their command vessels. If they fire, we take out their leadership first." Counselor Vrath's voice came through again. "This is your final warning. Stand down or be destroyed." Captain G.A. broke in on the command channel. "Admiral, I'm detecting something. Long-range sensors picking up massive energy signatures. More ships incoming." The tactical display updated. New contacts appearing throughout the system. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. But these weren't free world vessels, they were Confederation ships. From member worlds. Ships that should have been part of the enforcement fleet, but were instead taking up positions alongside the Allied forces. "What's happening?" Shin demanded. Borum pulled up identification codes. "Admiral, these are ships from Confederation member species. They're defecting. They're joining our side." A communication request came through from one of the new arrivals. An alien captain appeared on the screen, her species designation showing as Velkin, a member of the Confederation for over 800 years. "Admiral Shin, I am Captain Yura of the Velkin Defense Force. My crew has watched Ambassador Park's speeches. We've read about Earth's resistance. We've discussed among ourselves what we've lost since joining the Confederation. Our culture, our independence, our identity. We're here to help you fight for the freedom we gave up so long ago." More communication requests flooded in. Captains from dozens of species, all with similar stories, all inspired by Earth's defiance, all willing to risk everything to reclaim their sovereignty. The tactical display showed the new balance of forces. The Confederation enforcement fleet was now outnumbered 2-1. Counselor Vrath's hologram appeared again, but this time the colors were unstable, flickering between shades. "This is treason. You are all bound by the treaty. You cannot simply abandon your obligations." "We're not abandoning them," Captain Yura replied. "We're revoking our consent. The treaty was sold to us as a partnership, but it became a prison. We're choosing freedom just like Earth did." Admiral Shin watched the defecting ships take positions around the solar system. This was bigger than just a battle now. This was a revolution. "Confederation fleet, this is Admiral Deho Shin of Earth Defense Command. You came here to force us into submission. But I'm asking you to give me a chance to present these findings to the world before we commit humanity to permanent subjugati." The day of the signing ceremony arrived with Earth divided. Jiwoo's presentation had gone viral within hours, watched by over 6 billion people across the planet. The public response was exactly what President Nam had predicted. Chaos protests erupted in major cities on both sides. Those who wanted to join the Confederation accused Jiwoo of fear-mongering and holding humanity back from its destiny. Those who opposed the treaty called her a hero and demanded their governments reject the offer. Opinion polls shifted wildly hour by hour. The latest numbers showed the planet split almost perfectly in half. Now Jiwoo stood in a preparation room beneath the assembly hall, watching herself in a mirror. She wore formal diplomatic robes representing unified Earth, deep blue with silver stars. In a few minutes, she would walk into that chamber and deliver the most important speech of her life. Myung entered quietly. The Confederation fleet has moved into close orbit. They're surrounding the planet completely now, 37 ships positioned at strategic points around the globe. They're making sure we understand the stakes, Jiwoo said. Admiral Shin has our defense fleet on standby. If you reject the treaty and the Confederation responds with force, he says we'll have maybe 10 minutes before they overwhelm our defenses. Jiwoo turned from the mirror. Then I guess I should make those 10 minutes count. They walked together through the underground corridors toward the main chamber. Security was intense. Every person entering the hall had been screened 3 times. The Confederation had insisted on the precautions, claiming they wanted to ensure a peaceful ceremony. Jiwoo suspected they wanted to make sure no one could disrupt what they assumed would be Earth's surrender. The main chamber was even more crowded than during the first meeting. Every world leader sat in their assigned seat. Diplomatic observers packed the galleries. News cameras from every nation focused on the central podium. And above it all, the holographic form of Counselor Vrath waited patiently. President Nam sat in the front row, his expression carefully neutral. Beside him sat the leaders of the other major nations. Behind them, representatives from every country on Earth. Jiwoo could see the hope in some faces, the fear in others. They were all waiting for her to tell them what to do. So Min-yoon, Jiwoo's mentor and former ambassador, caught her eye from the audience. The elderly woman had trained Jiwoo in diplomacy 20 years ago. She gave a slight nod, not approval or disapproval, just acknowledgement that this moment had arrived. Jiwoo stepped to the podium. The chamber fell silent. Counselor Vrath, distinguished delegates, people of Earth, she began. Her voice was steady, amplified through translation systems to reach every corner of the hall and broadcast to billions watching around the world. 1 week ago, we were offered membership in the Galactic Confederation. We were told this treaty would bring us peace, prosperity, and protection. We were given 72 hours to review 40,000 pages of legal documentation. I asked for more time. That time has now passed, and I stand before you to deliver Earth's response. Vrath's holographic form shifted slightly, colors rippling across its crystalline surface. We are pleased to finally formalize this historic agreement. I'm not finished, Counselor, Jiwoo said firmly. You asked for our response. I intend to give it to you completely. She pulled up a holographic display showing the treaty document. For the past week, my team and I have read every single page of this treaty. All 40,000 pages. We've analyzed every clause, every subsection, every footnote. We've researched the history of the Confederation and its member species. We've studied the patterns of civilizations that joined before us, and we've discovered something remarkable. This treaty is brilliantly designed. Some of the delegates looked confused. Was she praising it? It's a masterwork of legal engineering, Jiwoo continued. The first 10,000 pages are wonderful. Trade agreements that benefit everyone. Cultural exchange programs, scientific cooperation, technology sharing, protection from external threats. Everything a young civilization could want. It's so appealing that most species probably never read past page 10,000. She zoomed in on specific sections. But if you keep reading, if you have the time and resources to actually analyze what you're signing, you begin to see the pattern. Clause 18,012 requires adopting Confederation building codes. Clause 19,400 mandates education system alignment. Clause 22,900 forces governmental restructuring. Slowly, carefully, the treaty strips away everything that makes a species unique and replaces it with Confederation standard. Murmurs spread through the chamber. On the screens, she showed images of treaty member worlds, their identical layouts, their conformist architecture. By the time you reach clause 24,789, the truth becomes clear. Within 50 years of signing, all member species must surrender complete control of their military to the Confederation Defense Authority. No weapons, no warships, no ability to defend yourselves. You become entirely dependent on the Confederation for security, which means you become entirely dependent on the Confederation for everything. Vrath's colors shifted to darker tones. Ambassador Park, you are misrepresenting the treaty's intent. These clauses ensure cooperation and prevent conflicts between member species. Do they? Jiwoo pulled up the video testimony from the anonymous alien. This is a message we received from one of the 23 species that tried to withdraw from your treaty. Would you like to explain to this chamber what happened to them when they attempted to leave? The video played on every screen. The alien's testimony, the images of destroyed ships, the bombardment of cities, the subjugation of an entire civilization. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Delegates shouted questions at Vrath. News cameras focused on the Confederation representatives changing colors. Those species violated the terms of the treaty, Vrath said, voice rising above the noise. They became hostile. They threatened other member worlds. The Confederation was forced to intervene for the greater good. All 23 of them, Jiwoo challenged. All 23 species that tried to leave suddenly became violent threats? Or did they simply want their freedom back and you couldn't allow that? She pulled up more data. We've analyzed the patterns, Counselor. Every species that joins the Confederation follows the same trajectory. Initial growth, then stagnation, then conformity. You don't create peace. You create uniformity. You don't protect civilizations. You absorb them. You take everything that makes them unique and replace it with your standard. 3,000 years ago, you were one species. Now you claim to be 847, but you're not. You're still just one collective that assimilates every new member until they're indistinguishable from all the others. President Nam stood. The chamber fell silent again, waiting to see which side he would take. Ambassador Park has presented evidence that troubles me deeply, he said. She has shown us clauses that would strip Earth of its sovereignty, its culture, and its ability to defend itself. She has shown us what happens to species that resist. Counselor Vrath, I must ask directly. If we sign this treaty, will Earth truly be a partner in the Confederation, or will we become just another subject species? You will be full members, Vrath replied, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. That's not an answer, Jiwoo said. Let me be more specific. If we sign this treaty and then, 50 years from now, decide we want to leave, will you let us go peacefully? Silence. The holographic form of Vrath seemed to freeze. I thought not, Jiwoo said softly, because this treaty isn't designed to be temporary. It's designed to be permanent. Once we sign, we can never leave. We become yours forever. She looked out at the assembled delegates, at the cameras broadcasting to the world, at the faces watching her decide humanity's future. I've studied Earth's history. I've read about every treaty we've ever signed as a species. Trade agreements, peace accords, colonial contracts. I've read about the treaties that benefited both sides and the ones that were designed to exploit the weaker party. I've read about the beautiful words used to disguise ugly intentions: protection, partnership, prosperity. The same words appear in every contract meant to enslave. Her voice grew stronger. My ancestors were colonized. They were told that foreign rule would bring civilization and progress. They were told to surrender their weapons, their government, their culture for their own good. They were told that resistance was foolish and cooperation was wise. It took them generations to win back their freedom. Some never did. She looked directly at Vrath's hologram. I will not sign away humanity's future. I will not trade our freedom for false security. I will not condemn our children to live as subjects in someone else's empire, no matter how benevolent that empire claims to be. The chamber was absolutely silent now. The Galactic Peace Treaty is a beautiful trap, an elegant cage, a gentle slavery, and Earth's answer is no. We reject this treaty. We reject your protection. We reject your conformity. Humanity will find its own path to the stars on our own terms in our own way. We will stumble. We will make mistakes. We will face challenges. The secure facility beneath Seoul's government district had been built during the last World War. Now it served as Earth's primary location for classified xenopolitical analysis. Jiwoo sat at the head of a long table surrounded by her expanded research team. On the screens covering every wall, sections of the Galactic Peace Treaty scrolled past in dozens of languages. Sunwoo Lee, Director of Earth Intelligence, pointed to a graph showing treaty member civilizations over time. We've been analyzing the pattern for 3 days now. Every single species that joined the Confederation in the last 1,000 years shows the same trajectory. Rapid technological advancement for the first 20 years after signing, then a plateau, then nothing. Nothing? President Nam asked from his seat at the table. He'd flown in specifically for this briefing, which told Jiwoo how seriously he was taking their findings. No significant innovations, no major cultural developments, no political changes. It's like they all just stopped growing. Sunwoo pulled up images of various alien worlds. These are current photos of treaty member homeworlds. Notice anything? Jiwoo studied the images carefully. At first they looked like thriving alien cities. But the more she looked, the more she noticed the similarities. The architecture varied by species, but the layouts were nearly identical. The infrastructure followed the same patterns. Even the spacing between buildings seemed standardized. They all look the same, Myung said softly. Exactly. 847 different species, from completely different evolutionary backgrounds, and their cities could all have been designed by the same planning committee. Young Suk Han, leader of the Sovereignty Coalition, leaned forward. She'd been one of the few public voices questioning the treaty from the beginning. What are you suggesting? That the Confederation imposes some kind of conformity on member species? I'm suggesting the treaty does it for them, Sunwoo replied. He pulled up another document section. Clause 18,012. All member species must adopt Confederation standard building codes within 30 years. Clause 19,400. All member species must align their educational systems with Confederation-approved curricula within 40 years. Clause 22,900. All member species must restructure their governments to interface properly with Confederation administrative systems. Minho Kang, the corporate liaison, shook his head. Those are just practical measures for integration. You can't have galactic cooperation without some standardization, can't you? Jiwoo asked. Or is that what they want us to believe? She stood and walked to the main screen. I've spent the last week reading about every species that joined this treaty. Do you know what I haven't found? Any record of their original cultures, their traditional art, their native philosophies, their unique approaches to science and engineering. It's all been replaced with Confederation standard. President Nam looked troubled. Are you telling me this treaty is designed to erase cultural identity? Not erase, Sunwoo said. Absorb, homogenize, make every species functionally identical so they're easier to govern. Dr. Taeyong Lim, Earth's chief xenoanthropologist, had been quiet until now. I've been researching the Confederation's history. 3,000 years ago, they were just one species. Now they're 847. Every few years, they approach a new species with this same treaty. The species almost always signs. The ones that don't, well, we couldn't find much information about what happens to them. Because they're isolated, Minho argued. Cut off from galactic trade and technology. That's the price of refusing. Maybe, Taeyong said. Or maybe the Confederation makes sure we don't hear from them for other reasons. Jiwoo pulled up another section of the treaty. Let's talk about the resource extraction clause. Member worlds must grant the Confederation access to 30% of all planetary resources in perpetuity. That includes minerals, biological materials, and any technology developed after joining. Standard taxation, Minho said. We pay taxes to our governments. This is just the galactic version. 30% isn't a tax. It's tribute, and it's permanent. Our children's children's children will still be sending 30% of everything Earth produces to the Confederation. Young-suk pulled up another clause. What about this one? The technology sharing requirement. All advances made by member species must be immediately reported to the Confederation Science Authority. But there's no reciprocal clause. They don't have to share their technology with us. They do share, Minho insisted. That's part of the benefit package. Access to Confederation technology. Access to what they choose to give us, Sunwoo corrected. On their timeline. Under their control. Meanwhile, everything we invent becomes theirs automatically. President Nam rubbed his temples. This is a lot to process. What about the military clause Ambassador Park discovered? The one about surrendering our defenses? Jiwoo brought up the relevant section. Within 50 years of signing, all member species must transfer control of their military assets to the Confederation Defense Authority. The official reason is to prevent conflicts between member worlds and ensure unified response to external threats. What external threats? Admiral Daeho Shin asked. He'd been listening silently from the back of the room. In 3,000 years, has the Confederation ever faced an outside attack? Sunwoo checked his database. No recorded instances. Not one. So there are no external threats. Shin continued, walking to the front of the room, which means the only reason to control every member species' military is to prevent internal resistance. They want to make sure nobody can fight back once they realize what they've signed. The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. Myung's tablet chimed. She looked at the screen and her eyes widened. Jiwoo, I'm receiving a data transmission. Unknown origin. It's encrypted with Earth protocols, but the source is definitely not from our planet. Can you decrypt it? Jiwoo asked. Already done. It's a video file. And a message that says from a friend who also said no. Jiwoo's heart raced. Play it. The main screen flickered and showed an alien being. It looked vaguely reptilian, with blue-green scales and 4 arms. It spoke in its own language, but the translation software worked perfectly. My name is not important. My species is not important. We are one of the 23 civilizations that refuse the Galactic Peace Treaty. I am sending this message at great risk, but you must know the truth. The alien looked directly at the camera. The treaty is a trap. A beautiful, elegant trap that has caught hundreds of species over thousands of years. Once you sign, you cannot leave. We tried. 7 of our ships approached a Confederation outpost to formally withdraw from the treaty. They were destroyed. The Confederation claimed it was a tragic accident during a military exercise. The video showed images of wreckage floating in space. We tried diplomatic channels. They were closed. We tried appealing to other member species. None would speak with us. The Confederation enacted a total blockade of our system. No trade, no communication, no travel. They told the galaxy we had become dangerous isolationists, pirates, threats to peace. More images flashed by. Alien cities under bombardment, fleets engaging in battle, refugee ships fleeing a dying world. We fought for our freedom. We lost. Our military was dismantled. Our government was restructured into a Confederation-approved format. Our children now learn Confederation history instead of our own. In 3 generations, my people will forget we were ever independent. We will be just another obedient member species. The alien leaned closer to the camera. But some of us remember. Some of us keep the old ways alive in secret. And some of us try to warn new species before they make our mistake. Do not sign the treaty. Whatever they promise you, whatever they threaten you with, do not sign. Once you do, you will never be free again. The video ended. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Finally, President Nam broke the silence. Is this real? Could it be Confederation propaganda designed to test our loyalty? Our analysis says it's genuine, Sunwoo replied. The technology in those images matches ship designs from the species mentioned. The timeline fits, and the emotional markers in the alien's voice patterns indicate genuine distress, not acting. Young-suk stood up. So what do we do? We have 3 days until the signing ceremony. 3 days to convince 8 billion people that the greatest opportunity in human history is actually a slavery contract. We tell them the truth, Jiwoo said firmly. We present the evidence. We show them what's hidden in those 40,000 pages. We make sure every person on Earth knows exactly what they're agreeing to. Minho shook his head. You'll cause a panic. The Confederation won't like it. They could withdraw the offer entirely. Good, Admiral Shin said. Let them withdraw it. Better no treaty than this treaty. President Nam stood slowly. Ambassador Park, if you present this evidence publicly and recommend rejecting the treaty, you'll be going against the will of most of Earth's population. The public approval rating for joining the Confederation is over 60%. You'll be the most hated person on the planet. Jiwoo met his eyes steadily. I'd rather be hated for telling the truth than loved for hiding it. Sir, this is your decision. You hold the council chair. Jiwoo Park stood at the massive window of the United Nations Galactic Assembly Hall, watching the alien ships descend through Earth's atmosphere. They moved with a grace that seemed impossible for vessels so large. Each ship was the size of a small city, their hulls reflecting the afternoon sun over Geneva like mirrors made of liquid metal. They're showing off, said Mi-young Choi, stepping beside her. The young analyst held a tablet computer that displayed preliminary scans of the Confederation fleet. 37 capital ships. Each one could probably destroy our entire defense grid. Jiwoo didn't respond immediately. She'd been Earth's lead diplomat for 6 years, and in that time she'd learned to read power plays. The Galactic Confederation wasn't just announcing their arrival. They were making a statement. How long until the formal presentation? Jiwoo asked. 2 hours. The delegates are already assembling in the main chamber. Behind them, the hall buzzed with activity. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered for what everyone was calling the most important day in human history. The Galactic Confederation had finally invited humanity to join their treaty. After 200 years of radio silence following first contact, the aliens had returned with an offer of peace, prosperity, and protection. Most people on Earth saw it as a dream come true. Jiwoo had learned long ago that dreams usually had hidden costs. Admiral Daeho Shin entered through the security checkpoint, his military uniform crisp despite the long flight from Seoul. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. He'd commanded Earth's defense fleet for a decade, always preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Ambassador Park, he greeted her formally, though they'd known each other for years. I've reviewed the proposed meeting agenda. They're rushing this, I noticed, Jiwoo said. First contact protocols recommend at least 6 months of preliminary discussions before any treaty negotiations. They're giving us 72 hours. Do we know why? No, but I intend to find out. The main chamber of the assembly hall could hold 5,000 people. Today, every seat was filled. Jiwoo took her position at the central podium, while Myung and the analysis team set up their stations nearby. Admiral Shin stood with the military observers in the upper gallery, his expression carefully neutral. The lights dimmed. A holographic projection materialized above the center of the chamber, showing the image of an alien that looked like it had been constructed from geometric shapes and dark crystal. This was Counselor Vrath, lead representative of the Galactic Confederation. People of Earth. Vrath's voice echoed through translation devices. We welcome you to the galactic community. For 3,000 of your years, the Confederation has maintained peace among 847 member species. Today we extend this peace to you. The hologram shifted, showing images of alien worlds joined in harmony, cities that blended multiple architectural styles, trading ports where dozens of species mingled freely, scientific stations where beings of different shapes and sizes worked together on projects that seemed to bend reality itself. The Galactic Peace Treaty offers your species protection from external threats, access to established trade networks, and the collective knowledge of nearly a millennium of spacefaring civilizations. All we ask in return is your commitment to peace and cooperation. It sounded perfect. Too perfect. President Hajin Nam, who held Earth's rotating council chair this year, stood to address the chamber. Counselor Vrath, humanity is honored by this offer. We've dreamed of joining the wider galaxy since we first looked at the stars. What are the specific terms of this treaty? The full documentation has been transmitted to your systems, Vrath replied. It is comprehensive, covering all aspects of integration into Confederation society. We understand this is complex, so we have generously allocated 72 hours for review before the signing ceremony. Jiwoo felt her stomach tighten. 72 hours to review a treaty that governed 847 species across 3,000 years? She caught Myung's eye. The analyst looked equally concerned. Counselor Vrath, Jiwoo spoke up, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. How many pages is this treaty? There was a pause. The treaty consists of 40,000 pages in your language. However, most member species found the core principles easy to understand. The remaining content is simply legal formalization. 40,000 pages, 72 hours. That gave them less than 2 minutes per page, assuming nobody slept. I request a 7-day extension for proper review, Jiwoo said. Around her, she could hear gasps from other delegates. Requesting more time might seem like an insult to the Confederation's generosity. Vrath's crystalline form seemed to shift colors briefly. That is unusual. No species has required additional time in the past 3 centuries. However, given humanity's inexperience with galactic protocols, we will grant a 7-day extension. The signing ceremony will commence exactly 1 week from now. The hologram vanished. Immediately, the chamber erupted in conversation. Some delegates looked relieved. Others seemed angry that Jiwoo had risked defending their new alien friends. President Nam approached her station. "Ambassador Park, I hope you know what you're doing. The people of Earth want this treaty. We've been waiting for this moment since we first invented the telescope." "Then waiting one more week won't hurt," Jiwoo replied. "Sir, something about this feels wrong. Why the rush? Why the show of force with their fleet? Why not give us time to properly understand what we're agreeing to? Maybe they're just efficient," Nam suggested, though he didn't sound convinced. "Or maybe they have other species waiting to join and need to keep to a schedule." After the president left, Mi-young pulled up the treaty document on her screen. "Jiwoo, this is insane. 40,000 pages of legal text, most of it referencing laws and precedents from species we've never heard of. It would take a team of 50 lawyers a month to properly analyze this." "Then we'd better get started," Jiwoo said. "Pull in everyone we've got. Xenopolitical experts, legal scholars, military analysts, economists. I want teams working around the clock. Something in these 40,000 pages explains why they're in such a hurry." Over the next 3 days, Jiwoo barely slept. Her team worked in shifts, breaking down the treaty into sections and analyzing each one. Most of it seemed straightforward. Trade regulations, diplomatic protocols, cultural exchange programs, resource sharing agreements. But Mi-young was brilliant at finding patterns in complex data. On the 4th day, she burst into Jiwoo's temporary office looking pale. Section 47, subsection 12, clause 24,789, Mi-young said, her hands shaking slightly as she handed Jiwoo a tablet. "Read it." Jiwoo read the passage 3 times to make sure she understood it correctly. Her blood ran cold. The clause stated that any member species must surrender all autonomous military capability within 50 standard years of signing the treaty. All weapons, all warships, all defense systems would be transferred to Confederation control. Member worlds would be protected by Confederation forces. Protected. The word suddenly felt like a cage. "Does anyone else know about this?" Jiwoo asked quietly. "Just our core team." "Jiwoo, if we sign this treaty, in 50 years Earth won't have any way to defend itself. We'll be completely dependent on the Confederation for security, which means we'll be completely under their control." Jiwoo looked out the window at the Confederation ship still hanging in Earth's orbit. They weren't here to offer humanity a partnership. They were here to add another subject species to their collection, and Earth had 7 days to decide whether to accept. 3 months had passed since Jiwoo rejected the treaty. The Confederation fleet had departed Earth's orbit after 2 tense days, but their parting message had been clear. Humanity was now isolated from the galactic community. No trade, no communication, no contact of any kind. Earth stood alone. The economic impact was immediate and brutal. Industries that had begun retooling for alien trade partnerships collapsed. Stocks crashed worldwide. Millions lost jobs in sectors that had anticipated galactic commerce. Food prices spiked as agricultural conglomerates realized they couldn't access Confederation markets. The isolation everyone had feared was now reality. Jiwoo watched protests outside the Seoul government complex from her office window. Thousands of people marched through the streets carrying signs. Some praised her courage. Others called her a traitor who had stolen humanity's future. She'd become the most famous person on Earth, and half the planet hated her for it. "The latest polls show your approval rating at 42%, Mi-young said, entering with her daily briefing, down 3 points from last week. "Could be worse," Jiwoo replied. "The Prime Minister of the Atlantic States called you a criminal against humanity in his speech yesterday. The protest movement demanding your arrest has grown to include 17 nations. Definitely could be better. Despite the chaos, something unexpected was happening. Without access to alien technology, human scientists and engineers were forced to solve problems themselves, and they were solving them faster than anyone had predicted." Dr. Taeyong Lim burst into Jiwoo's office without knocking. The scientist looked like he hadn't slept in days, but his eyes were bright with excitement. "We did it." "We actually did it." "Did what?" Jiwoo asked. "Faster than light travel. Real FTL. Not the theoretical models we've been playing with for decades. We've built a working drive." Jiwoo stared at him. "That's impossible. Every physicist said we were at least 50 years away from functional FTL. They were right, as long as we kept following the research directions suggested by Confederation scientific papers. But when we went back to pure human mathematics, to our own theoretical frameworks without any outside influence, we found a different approach, It's not the way the Confederation does it, but it works. Maybe better than theirs. Mi-young pulled up data on her tablet. He's not exaggerating. The test vehicle achieved 0.8 times light speed in yesterday's trial. Tae-young's team thinks they can push it to twice light speed within 6 months. How is this possible? Ji-woo asked. The Confederation has had FTL for thousands of years. How did we figure it out in 3 months? Tae-young grinned. Because we had to. When you have access to someone else's technology, you stop innovating. You just wait for them to give you the next upgrade. But when you're alone, when you have to solve the problem or die trying, you find solutions you never knew existed. Necessity isn't just the mother of invention. It's the mother of innovation. Admiral Shin arrived for the scheduled security briefing. He'd aged visibly in the past 3 months. The stress of preparing Earth's defenses against potential Confederation attack showing in new lines on his face. Admiral, you're early, Ji-woo said. I have news. Captain Ji-hyo has returned from deep space. Ji-woo's eyebrows rose. The Sejong? I thought she wasn't due back for another month. She found something. Someone, actually. You should hear this directly from her. Captain O was young for her position, only 31, but she'd proven herself the best deep space explorer in Earth's fleet. She entered the office still wearing her ship suit, clearly having come straight from landing. Ambassador Park, I need to show you something. Ji-hyo pulled up a star chart. 3 weeks ago, we detected unusual energy signatures in the Kepler 442 system. We investigated and found a civilization. They call themselves the Haeju. They're not part of the Confederation. Another isolated species? Ji-woo asked. Not isolated, rejected like us. They refused the treaty 40 years ago. The room fell silent. Another species that had said no. Another civilization that had survived the consequences. What happened to them? Mi-young asked. Ji-hyo pulled up images of an alien world. The cities looked nothing like the conformist architecture they'd seen in Confederation space. They were chaotic, creative, unique. They were blockaded for 5 years. The Confederation cut them off completely, expecting them to collapse. Instead, the Haeju adapted. They developed their own technology. They found other rejected species and formed trade partnerships. They survived. How many other species? Admiral Shin asked sharply. At least 4 that the Haeju know about. Maybe more. They've been trying to locate every civilization that refused the treaty, building a network of free worlds. They want Earth to join them. Ji-woo felt hope rising in her chest for the first time in months. We're not alone. No, Ambassador. We're not. And the Haeju ambassador asked me to deliver a message to you personally. Ji-hye pulled out a data crystal. He said to tell you that your speech has been spreading through their network. Translated into dozens of languages, shared among the free worlds. You've become a symbol of resistance against the Confederation. I didn't want to be a symbol, Ji-woo said quietly. I just wanted to tell the truth. Sometimes they're the same thing, Ji-hye replied. Over the next month, contact with the Haeju transformed Earth's situation. They shared information about resources in unclaimed space. They taught humanity how to detect Confederation surveillance systems and avoid their patrols. They introduced Earth to the other free worlds, the Minsu, the Borum, the Hyejin. Each had their own story of rejecting the treaty and surviving the isolation that followed. The alliance that formed was unlike anything in the Confederation. There were no standardized protocols, no mandatory conformity. Each species maintained their own culture, their own government, their own way of doing things. They cooperated because they chose to, not because a treaty forced them. Young Suk-han led the diplomatic efforts to formalize the partnerships. The free worlds want to call it the Sovereignty Alliance, a coalition of civilizations committed to remaining independent while supporting each other. The Confederation won't like this, President Nam warned. 1 rejected species is an anomaly. 5 is a pattern. 20 could be a movement. Let them dislike it, Ji-woo said. We're not doing anything hostile. We're just choosing to be free. But the Confederation was paying attention. Reports from the Haeju indicated increased Confederation fleet movements near free world territories. Surveillance had intensified. There were incidents of Confederation ships entering sovereign space without permission, claiming they were pursuing criminals. Admiral Shin upgraded Earth's defense preparations. If they come, we need to be ready. The Haeju have shared their military technology with us. It's not as advanced as the Confederation's, but it's effective. More importantly, it's ours. We understand how it works. We can modify it, improve it, adapt it to our needs. The change in Earth's military capability was dramatic. Without relying on potential Confederation technology transfers, human engineers were free to experiment with radical designs. They created ships that didn't follow standard Confederation patterns, weapons that used principles the aliens had never considered, defense systems built around human psychology and tactics. Yoonji Kwon, leader of the civilian resistance movement, reported growing support for Earth's independence. The protests against you have mostly stopped, Ambassador. People are seeing what we can accomplish on our own. Our economy has stabilized. Our technology is advancing faster than ever. And we're not alone anymore. Public approval for your decision is now at 68% and rising. Jiwoo allowed herself a small smile. Only 68%? The other 32% are never going to like you, Yoonji laughed. But that's freedom. The right to disagree. Taeyoung's team achieved another breakthrough. The new FTL drive could now reach 3 times light speed. They'd also developed a sensor system that could detect Confederation ships at twice the range of their scanning technology. Human innovation was proving that the Confederation's way wasn't the only way, or even the best way, but success attracted attention. 6 weeks after contact with the Haiju, Earth's long-range sensors detected something approaching the solar system. Admiral Shin pulled up the scan results in the command center, his face grim. 200 ships, he said quietly. Confederation military configuration. They'll be here in 72 hours. President Nam looked at the tactical display. Is this an invasion? Unknown. They could be here to force us to sign the treaty. They could be here to make an example of us. They could be here to negotiate. We won't know until they arrive. Jiwoo studied the fleet composition. It was massive, far larger than the delegation that had come 3 months ago. This isn't a diplomatic mission. This is a show of force. Can we fight them? Nam asked. Shin was quiet for a moment. If it's just us? No, we'd last maybe an hour. But if the Sovereignty Alliance comes to help, if we coordinate our defenses, if we use every advantage of knowing our own system better than they do, maybe we could hold them off long enough to make them reconsider. And if we can't, the Admiral met the President's eyes. Then at least we'll go down fighting. Better than surrendering our freedom. Messages went out immediately to the free worlds.